Now, Madison police continue to search for a suspect after two separate sexual assaults happening minutes apart. Also, Republicans are calling for investigations after Biden aides say they found a second batch of classified materials from his time as vice president. This is News 3 Now at noon. Good afternoon, I'm Mark Kane. Before we start, a programming note we want to mention. We're currently waiting on a special report from CBS for a press conference from Attorney General Merrick Garland. The report is scheduled for 12:15. If the report starts during this program, we'll be joining it live. Now on to our top story. Madison police are investigating two reports of sexual assault within minutes of each other in the same neighborhood. Both victims say they were in the Greenbush neighborhood Tuesday evening. The first attack happening near the intersection of South Park and Aaron Streets. Then the second attack reportedly occurred near the intersection of Emerald and Orchard Streets. Both women were able to escape their attacker, who they describe as an Hispanic male in his early 20s wearing dark clothing. Madison police investigators have contacted the UW-Madison Police Department, which plans to provide extra resources in the area. A man now faces charges of first-degree intentional homicide and endangering safety after firing at a Monroe home around 8:30 last night. Police say that a 50-year-old man shot at a home in the 1500 block of 16th Street in Monroe. Investigators say the event was targeted and there was no threat to the community. No one in the home was hurt, and the man faces an additional half-dozen tentative charges. Happening today, Wisconsin Republicans are planning to hold a vote to allow conversion therapy. A ban on conversion therapy was passed in 2020 by a state board within the Evers administration's overseeing licensing for mental health professionals. But a committee in the Republican-controlled legislature temporarily blocked it. The ban was reinstated after lawmakers failed to permanently block it by the end of last legislative session. It's been back in effect since December 1st after Evers won re-election. Let's head to the Weather Center now. Meteorologist Greg Barnhart has looked at your certified most accurate forecast on this gray Thursday.
Yeah, you said it's kind of depressing day. So good news is we got about 24 hours and then the sun's going to be coming out tomorrow. So that's a positive news. But right now we have a system to the south that you can kind of barely see that. And then one towards International Falls that's kind of dipping south too. So overall we're going to have a few more showers and snow kind of come through this evening and low clouds. You can kind of start picking that up. But overall still mild temperatures. We're still looking at 34 degrees for Madison when normal highs should be around in the upper 20s. There's a bigger picture of that system to the south. Most of it's going to stay that way, but we are going to track that other one to the north. It'll provide us some snow probably this afternoon or more likely this evening. Radar starting to pick up some of that very light snow coming down. Right now, most of it's to the north, but once again, temperatures overall upper 30s to the south, mid 30s around Madison, or just low 30s. So not that bad really as you look at for the middle of January. We are still looking at pretty good temperatures. Like I said, we should be much colder. Visibility looks good right now out there, just some low clouds. Overall, you see the drop in temperatures, that's kind of behind this system. But overall, once again, still above normal for even January. So really what we're looking for, impacts coming this evening as you go on your commute. We could have some light snow. The winds are going to start picking up out of the north as we get some colder air come through. I'll time out that snow and actually how cold it'll get this tomorrow and how warm it'll get this weekend again.
All right, up and down.
Up and down, yeah.
All right, Greg, we'll check back. President Biden's legal team found another batch of classified information at a second location. That's according to sources briefed on the matter. So far, there's no word from the White House on this issue, but some Republicans are talking. John Lorenick reports.
The paper trail of classified documents is now a little longer for President Joe Biden.
Obviously, it would have been better had it not happened in the first place. But they've certainly dealt with it the right way.
Sources briefed on the issue tell CNN Biden's legal team uncovered a second set of classified documents after the initial discovery in November of classified information at the think tank office used by then Vice President Biden.
What's so surprising to me is that this came out before the election. Why does his Department of Justice treat people differently? Every time we find something that comes out before the election dealing with Biden's family, it's pushed under the rug.
South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham is among the Republicans calling for Attorney General Merrick Garland to open a full-throttle investigation into the situation.
I agree with the Republicans. There should absolutely be a special counsel appointed to review this matter.
Classified records are supposed to be stored in secure locations, and the Presidential Records Act says all White House records are to be given to the National Archives after an administration ends.
Classified documents belong in classified settings. And if we're having consistent problems across parties with exiting government officials not putting those classified documents where they belong, then I think that's something that we should take up.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
As of now, there is no confirmation of how many documents were found in this second discovery or what information they contained. The location of where they were found has also not been released. The White House declined to comment on the matter. Opening arguments are set to start in the trial of 5 Proud Boys charged with seditious conspiracy related to January 6th. Prosecutors are planning to use a clip of then-President Donald Trump telling the far-right group to, quote, stand back and stand by. Trump made those comments during the 2020 presidential debate. Prosecutors and members of the Proud Boys who testified to Congress say the far-right group celebrated the remarks and used it as a recruiting tool. One of the defense attorneys said the comments did not reflect any of the actions of the defendants. The man charged with killing 4 University of Idaho students is set to appear in court today for a status hearing. Brian Koberger is charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. Koberger was a PhD student in criminology at a nearby university at the time. Phone records put his phone near the home around the time of the killings. Investigators also got a DNA profile from the Koberger family that matched DNA on a knife sheath found at the scene of the killings. He's being held without bail. China is renewing its long-standing threat to attack Taiwan, warning the U.S. and its allies to mind their own business. Meanwhile, troops in Taiwan are busy showcasing their military strength. They're conducting mock military missions to assure the public the democratic island can protect itself. China recently ramped up military drills near the Taiwan Strait, but the Pentagon is downplaying any immediate danger.
Whether or not that means that an invasion is imminent, I seriously doubt that.
China claims Taiwan as part of its territory.
China does, in fact, claim Taiwan as part of its territory, even though the self-governing island separated from the mainland in 1949. The Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington ran through 24 possible war game scenarios and found while Taiwan would likely defeat China with help from allies, the U.S. and Japan could face enormous losses. More than 7,000 nurses are returning to work in New York City after a 3-day strike. The union reached a tentative deal with Montefiore Health System and Mount Sinai Health System. The 3-year contract includes a pay increase, enhanced benefits, and a better work environment to ensure safer patient care. Nurses still need to vote to approve the deal before it's finalized. There's more to come on News 3 Now at noon. The FAA has traced the source of yesterday's system outage that grounded all flights across the U.S. Details coming up in the Money Watch report.
You're watching News 3 Now at noon.
Ashley's $14 million sell-off is happening now. Millions of dollars worth of product arrived late to our warehouse and must be sold. This is your chance to save as much as 85% while it lasts. Plus, get 60-month special financing store-wide, only at Ashley.
Wisconsin. It's easy to take for granted how we warm up. But what if you couldn't warm up so easily? For many, it's a reality they can't ignore. Working families, elderly, disabled, and veterans struggling to keep their heat and power on in the dangerous cold of winter. If you or someone you know needs a hand up, our energy, water, and emergency rental assistance providers are working together to keep you safe in your home. No one deserves to suffer when we can help each other.
Cold winter weather's here, so why feel it inside your own home and in your wallet? USA Insulation's premium injection foam fills every crevice of your walls, even going over your existing inferior insulation. Our foam gives you high-tech comfort and saves you money on utility bills year-round. So stop bundling up and start building savings. Call now and get up to a 30% tax credit and low monthly payments.
USA Insulation.
Oh,
The weather. What's the chance of rain tomorrow?
Ooh, 80%. I make it rain. I make it rain.
Speaking of making it rain, at Ho Chunk Gaming Madison, we have an average 95% payout, which leads you to more chances of playing longer and more chances to win big. Play longer, win more, chances are you're gonna like it.
Ho Chunk Gaming Madison.
Rub these little weenies, not with my low E.
Millions are suffering from low energy, commonly called low E.
Conga line around the family room? Not with my low E.
I can't even blow up this celebratory balloon.
Why live this way? Planet Fitness replaces low E with Big E, which keeps you energized and glowing all day. Simply join through the free PF app. $1 down, $10 a month, cancel anytime. Deal ends January 12th.
Look at my wieners now.
Right now with Papa Murphy's, we've got a great deal.
Which means I make more great pizza.
Like our $9.99 XLNY pizza. It's everything you'd expect from a classic New York-style pizza, hot and fresh out of your oven. Order now at papamurphys.com.
Furniture and Appliance Mart's $14 million sell-off is happening now. Millions of dollars worth of product arrived late and must be sold. Whirlpool microwaves now just $199. Amana washer and dryer pairs now just $9.99. At Furniture and Appliance Mart inside Ashley off the Beltline in East Springs Drive.
The Federal Aviation Administration says a preliminary review has traced the source of yesterday's system outage to a damaged database file and found no evidence of a cyber attack. The FAA's notice-to-air mission system was down for multiple hours starting late Tuesday, forcing the cancellation or delay of more than 10,000 flights yesterday, according to FlightAware. The Department of Veterans Affairs proposed a new rule to waive medical copay fees for Native American and Alaska Native veterans for any visits at VA-authorized primary care providers. The VA says the intent of the policy is to encourage veterans to seek primary care and give them better access to health care. The proposed rule is going through a 30-day public comment period before it can be finalized. And this Friday the 13th could be a very lucky night for someone with a Mega Millions jackpot now up to more than $1.3 billion. That's now the second largest jackpot in the game's history. The cash option payout is estimated at almost $708 million. That is your CBS News Money Watch report. For more, log on to cbsmoneywatch.com. At the CBS Broadcast Center, I'm Chanel Call.
Let's check Wall Street at the noon hour. The Dow Industrials up almost 300 points. The NASDAQ up 71. The S&P 500 up 23. Next at noon, today's egg prices, and Greg shares the latest forecast. Then later, Dr. Zorba Pastor joins us on Live at 4. We'll discuss a new report on the latest drop in cancer death rates and answer any and all of your medical questions. That's today at 4.
Do you have a coffee smile? Drinking coffee causes yellow teeth for thousands of people just like you. And whitening toothpaste just doesn't make those stains go away. Introducing Power Swabs, the first teeth whitening system that lifts coffee stains off your teeth in less than 5 minutes without whitening strips or trays.
The Power Swabs were so easy to use. I don't have to have strips sitting on my face for an hour. I don't have to have a foam tray where I feel like I'm going to gag or I'm going to go play football. I've tried like every over-the-counter whitening because, you know, I'm one of those people that's like obsessed with white teeth.
So with the strips I've used in the past, most of them are like you got to leave it on for 30 minutes and the whole experience is just not comfortable. But with Power Swabs, I just snapped it open and rubbed it on and it was good to go.
This didn't sting, it didn't burn, it didn't have an aftertaste. It was just a swab and I just got to rub it on my teeth, and that was it.
The Secret is a tooth detergent and whitening agent developed by Dr. Martin Ginniker that lifts stains off of your teeth. Power Swabs remove stains on natural teeth, veneers, bonding, caps, and crowns. The best part is you just swab your teeth for 5 minutes and you'll have whiter teeth. No more sitting at home with a whitening strip or tray in your mouth for 30 minutes twice a day.
When I used these whitening strips, I noticed when I would drink, I would get this crazy sensitivity. It would go right to my brain, and I'm like, I hate this. So why do I have to go through the monstrosity of this pain just because I want to whiten my teeth. With power swabs, there was zero sensitivity.
Within the first day with the power swab, I noticed there was a difference. I really love the fact that you're able to go individually on each tooth and make sure that it's going to be wider.
Call for your 5-minute solution to whiter teeth. Whiten your teeth this new year by ordering power swabs and receive up to 50% off the regular price. Yes, 50% off the regular price. Shipping is free, plus you'll receive a free Quick Stick pen. Visit powerswabs.com or call the number on your screen.
On the Jennifer Hudson Show, Justin Baldoni is here. People know you from Jane the Virgin.
She does.
Plus, a mentor who makes a huge difference.
On the next Jennifer Hudson Show at 3.
Congratulations, you're engaged. Now for the hard part, planning the wedding. Tomorrow we take a sneak peek at a local event that'll give you loads of inspiration.
Well, we've got a little bit cooler weather in the morning, but in return to some sunshine. Join us tomorrow between 4:30 and 7.
The Farm Report is sponsored by Blaine's Farm and Fleet.
We are coming on the air with breaking news because we are waiting to hear from Attorney General Merrick Garland. He is making his first remarks since the Justice Department launched a review into the discovery of classified documents found at multiple locations linked to President Biden. The question today for the Attorney General, will he appoint a special counsel? Now, sources tell CBS News that the Department of Justice review has included interviews with multiple witnesses who may have knowledge of how the classified documents were handled and how they ended up in these locations. Let's listen now to the Attorney General, Mr. Garland.
Good afternoon. I'm here today to announce the appointment of Robert Hur as a special counsel pursuant to Department of Justice regulations governing such matters. In keeping with those regulations, I have today notified the designated members of each House of Congress of the appointment. I'm joined today by John Lausch, the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, who conducted the initial investigation into the matter that I will describe today. On the evening of November 4th, 2022, the National Archives Office of Inspector General contacted a prosecutor at the Department of Justice. It informed him that the White House had notified the archives that documents bearing classification markings were identified at the office of the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement, located in Washington, D.C. That office was not authorized for storage of classified documents. The prosecutor was also advised that those documents had been secured in an archives facility. On November 9th, the FBI commenced an assessment consistent with standard protocols to understand whether classified information had been mishandled in violation of federal law. On November 14th, pursuant to Section 600.2b of the Special Counsel Regulations, I assigned U.S. Attorney Lausch to conduct an initial investigation to inform my decision whether to appoint a special counsel. Mr. Lausch has served as the U.S. Attorney in Chicago since 2017. Before that, he spent more than a decade as an assistant U.S. Attorney in that same office. I selected him to conduct the initial investigation because I was confident his experience would ensure that it would be done professionally and expeditiously. On December 20th, President Biden's personal counsel informed Mr. Lausch that additional documents bearing classification markings were identified in the garage of the president's private residence in Wilmington, Delaware. President Biden's counsel informed Mr. Lausch that those documents were among other records from the period of the president's service as vice president. The FBI went to the location and secured those documents. On January 5th, 2023, Mr. Lausch briefed me on the results of his initial investigation and advised me that further investigation by a special counsel was warranted. Based on Mr. Lausch's initial investigation, I concluded that, under the special counsel regulations, it was in the public interest to appoint a special counsel. In the days since, while Mr. Lausch continued the investigation, the department identified Mr. Hur for appointment as special counsel. This morning, President Biden's personal counsel called Mr. Lausch and stated that an additional document bearing classification markings was identified at the president's personal residence in Wilmington, Delaware. When I first contacted Mr. Lausch about this matter, he said he could lead the initial investigation, but would be unable to accept any longer-term assignment because he would be leaving the department in early 2023 for the private sector. U.S. Attorney Lausch and his team of prosecutors and agents have conducted this initial investigation with professionalism and speed. I am grateful to them. Earlier today, I signed an order appointing Robert Hur as special counsel for the matter I've just described. The document authorizes him to investigate whether any person or entity violated the law in connection with this matter. The special counsel will not be subject to the day-to-day supervision of any official of the department, but he must comply with the regulations, procedures, and policies of the department. Mr. Hur has a long and distinguished career as a prosecutor. In 2003, he joined the department's criminal division, where he worked on counterterrorism, corporate fraud, and appellate matters. From 2007 until 2014, Mr. Hur served as an assistant U.S. attorney for the District of Maryland, where he prosecuted matters ranging from violent crime to financial fraud. In 2017, Mr. Hur rejoined the department as the Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General. In 2018, he was nominated and confirmed to serve as a U.S. Attorney for the District of Maryland. As U.S. Attorney, he supervised some of the department's more important national security, public corruption, and other high-profile matters. I will ensure that Mr. Hur receives all the resources he needs to conduct his work. As I have said before, I strongly believe that the normal processes of this department can handle all investigations with integrity. But under the regulations, the extraordinary circumstances here require the appointment of a special counsel for this matter. This appointment underscores for the public the department's commitment to both independence and accountability in particularly sensitive matters, and to making decisions indisputably guided only by the facts and the law. I am confident that Mr. Hur will carry out his responsibility in an even-handed and urgent manner and in accordance with the highest traditions of this department. Thank you all.
Have you ever spoken to the President about this investigation, sir?
And there you have it, the Attorney General of the United States making some big news this morning, saying that he will appoint a special counsel to investigate those documents with classified markings that have been found in multiple locations. These are documents from the Obama-Biden administration when Biden was Vice President of the United States. And we have some new timelines in terms of when those documents were found and how this whole thing unfolded. Let's bring in Adriana Diaz. She's here with me. She was the first to report about the discovery of those documents. What stood out to you?
What really stood out to me, Nora, is the fact that on December 20th, documents were found in President Biden's garage of his Wilmington home. We were told this morning by the White House about those documents. However, earlier this year on Monday when we broke this story, that's the first time we heard from the White House about this issue. And they only talked to us about, in a statement that they released, about the documents found, the initial documents found on November 2nd at the Penn Biden Center. By that point, documents had been found at President Biden's home in Delaware in Wilmington. What was also interesting is that an additional document was found just this morning in that same home in a room next to the garage, which President Biden said today on camera was really one of his rooms where, you know, he called it his personal library. So what's interesting is the timeline and the fact that the White House did not tell us about the original the documents found in the garage when they issued a statement about this on Monday.
What does it mean now with the appointment of this special counsel to begin this investigation? What happens now?
Now a special counsel will be able to investigate this, and really why it's important is because they can operate independently within the Justice Department. So it is to ensure complete independence, because remember, Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, was appointed by President Biden. So he wants to make sure that someone who was not appointed by President Biden is overseeing this investigation. So the investigation will move forward. It will have greater resources, presumably. And we're learning a lot about Robert Hur. He was formerly, as you heard the Attorney General say, the U.S. Attorney for Maryland. Maryland. And why this is interesting is because the National Security Agency is located in Maryland, so he should have plenty of experience investigating cases related to sensitive information.
All right, Adriana Diaz, who first broke this story, stand by. Want to bring in Scott McFarland. He is on Capitol Hill. Scott, already we heard from the Speaker of the House for the first time about what he called a double standard.
Yeah, and the congressional reaction is coming in fast and furious, as one would expect. I just spoke with the top Republican on the House Intelligence Committee, Michael Turner of Ohio, who says he's asking the Department of National Intelligence, the Director of National Intelligence, to do an assessment, a damage assessment of what might have been exposed by the records in Delaware and the records here on Capitol Hill at the Penn Biden Center. The top Republican on the House Armed Services Committee wants the Department of Defense to do the same, an assessment of what might have been exposed, what damage might have been incurred. Democrats, including the Democratic leader in the U.S. House, Hakeem Jeffries, say there's a big difference here, though, still. The Biden team seems to have voluntarily notified the archives and handed over the records, whereas in the Trump case, in the Mar-a-Lago case, requests for the records were allegedly ignored or disregarded. But then there's Kevin McCarthy accusing Democrats of a double standard here. And Nora, that leaves the Capitol where it's often most comfortable, with each side accusing the other of hypocrisy and each side accusing the other of a double standard.
And Scott, I must ask you, I understand that you know attorney Robert Hur, who has been appointed as special counsel.
Yeah, I spent several years covering then U.S. Attorney Robert Hur in Maryland. He has a deep track record of financial records cases, public corruption cases, and because Maryland is home of the National Archives headquarters, he has this obscure work record of handling archives theft cases. Our CBS News review of federal prosecutions in Maryland shows a series of cases prosecuted by the U.S. Attorney in Maryland of people who stole things from the National Archives. An otherwise obscure type of case. Robert Hur has some backstory with this, some experience with this.
That is noteworthy. Scott McFarland on Capitol Hill for us. Thank you. Let's bring in our senior White House and political correspondent, Ed O'Keefe. And Ed, you notably yesterday were pressing the White House press secretary for more information. We're stonewalled at every single turn. The White House has been reluctant to provide really any information on this matter. When you listen to the Attorney General this morning, what stands out to you? What additional questions do you have?
Where to begin, Nora, but the most notable now is that this discovery of a second batch of classified documents actually occurred on December 20th, before Christmas, at his home in Wilmington, Delaware. Notably today, he was quite glib when asked to explain why he was storing these documents apparently in his garage. A reporter pointed out it's the same garage where he stores his Corvette. He grew somewhat defensive, saying, yes, and both the Corvette and those documents were behind a locked garage. Either way, that would appear to be in violation of federal law that says classified documents aren't supposed to be sitting in someone's garage the way they are. The White House counsel's office has issued two statements since CBS News first broke this story. They were vague to some extent now about the timeline, at least based on what the Attorney General just told us. While they may have been cooperating with the Justice Department, and while they are claiming that they're being somewhat transparent now by telling us what they know, and the President saying he was surprised, he withheld information about that second batch. He also withheld details of the timeline, and that's going to raise a lot of questions, at least in the public and political space, about why a president who vowed to be so transparent from day one has decided to withhold this. Remember, there was nothing stopping the President of the United States from disclosing this when he first learned about it in November. Nothing that would have stopped him from saying before the Justice Department began, we found these, we weren't supposed to have them, we've turned them over, and get ahead of it. Instead, for whatever reason, among the questions we haven't been able to answer, why, he has decided to withhold this information. And we'll see later today, when the press secretary is scheduled to take questions again, whether or not more information is forthcoming, or whether this announcement from the special counsel now means that they have to withhold even more information. But also important to point out, for somebody who campaigned on trying to bring professionalism and better management of federal government to Washington, he now joins his predecessors as the subject of an investigation by a special counsel.
That's right. It is worth noting that President Biden himself is not under investigation, but what happened to these documents is some of the outstanding questions. Why did it take 2 months for this to become public, as Ed has pointed out? And actually, I think kind of one of the most important things are what's the content of these documents that were marked classified. We do know that some of them were highly classified. Ed O'Keefe at the White House, thank you one more time. Want to bring in Adriana Diaz. And about that question, I know you've questioned Republicans about this as well. Is there a comparison, or is it a contrast with what happened with Donald Trump and his documents?
I think there are important distinctions here, Nora. The first is in size. We know that Donald Trump had more than 300 documents in Mar-a-Lago that the government, the Justice Department, and the National Archives were trying to seek for more than a year. In this case, we're told it's a small number in Delaware and roughly 10 that were found at the Penn Biden Center.
Ed, I'll stand by Adriana. Ed, do you have something more? I see you motioning.
Thank you, Nora. I have been inquiring here. This is a question that we often ask of whether the White House got advance notice of the Attorney General's announcement. A senior White House official, somebody who would know, is telling me no, they did not. That is standard practice, but important to point out in this case that they were not given a heads up by the Attorney General that he was appointing a special prosecutor.
There is usually some church and state there, if you will. They do try and remain independent, if you will. So Ed O'Keefe, thank you so much. Adriana Diaz and Scott McFarland on the Hill, thank you so much. Our coverage will continue on CBS News Streaming, your local news. We'll have a full wrap-up tonight on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News special report. I'm Nora O'Donnell in Washington.